Welcome back, everybody, to the Pat Flynn Show. We are joined once again by legendary strength coach Dan John. How do you like that intro music, Dan? It really helps build anticipation, doesn't it?
It inspires. I've already noticed a wave in my heart of inspiration. I am. The spirit is in me.
Indeed.
Is that a bald spot, or is that just something I need to grow over?
No, it looks just like a little tuft of hair. I noticed a few gray streaks in my own here the other day. So,
I tell you, I think a lot of people have seen some gray with the COVIDs.
Indeed, I noticed the first gray streak, almost perfectly corresponded with my first child.
Trust me, my daughters they claim them. So they'll come in. That one's mine. Yes, it is. That one is yours. Yes.
Yeah. Well, very good, Dan. Always a joy to be with you. We are live streaming this podcast, so gentle listeners, we will take your questions and comments definitely towards the end, but perhaps even as we go along. So chime in. Let us know where you are tuning in from, what you have in your cup. Oh, that's a cute little cup, Dan. What do you have in that?
I have a delicious cup of Folgers crystals. With the baby in the house, I don't go upstairs and turn on the coffee for a while. So I have a little hot pot down here, and I make myself a delicious cup of Folgers crystals, mountain grown. It's rich. It has a bit of acid in it, and if you need to make your morning a little bit brighter, I would recommend it.
Yeah. Speaking of the mountain grown stuff, twice. So I've told you this before, where there's a bit of tension in the Flynn household between coffee brands. So my wife, she loves Folgers. I like, I guess I'm a bit of a pinky raiser with my coffee selection. So it's kind of a fight to who gets up first, gets the first pot of coffee and all this or that. However, interestingly enough, whenever we make the Folgers at our house for our guests, they are always blown away by it, so long as they don't know that it's Folgers.
Yeah, I think the whole coffee snobbery thing, I don't know how I missed it. I'm glad I did. I'm a church coffee drinker. I have a huge 45 cup urn just behind me in the other room there. For when we have parties, I always make a massive pot of church coffee. And for those who don't know what church coffee is, go to any good church. When they have the little gathering after, there'll be this massive metal urn of coffee.
Styrofoam cups right there.
Styrofoam cups and a couple of packets of chemicals I would not recommend. And I'm a fan of as long as it's hot and wakes me up before I go, then I'm happy.
Then we're good. Well, hey, good morning to everyone chiming in. Jules says, really enjoying the awesome content. Thank you very much. Jules is tuning in from Ontario, Canada. We've got a gentle listener over in Israel, Aviche, if I'm pronouncing that right.
Oh, it's from Israel.
Yeah, just having sparkling water over there. We have Norway joining with us.
Look at that.
all over the world here with the Pat Flynn Show.
So let's go. Shalom. I got it. Yael Skerdai. I'm just speaking to all of our I only know a few words in every language, so I'm doing my best here.
A few more words than I know, so very good. All right, Dan, well, give us the update. How's your training been this past week? You have your meet coming up.
Things are good. It's interesting. In fact, I'm doing a new. By the way, today is when we come out with my goal setting and goal achieving course is out today somewhere. So if you're it'll be in Wandering Weights. It'll be in an email. That reminded me because I'm working on the next one on programming. And one of the things I try to talk about in my lectures on programming is how to change. Okay, everything needs small adjustments. And that's a hard thing to teach with programming. And that's why sometimes I like it when you just give someone a random group of like, today we're going to do this workout, that. And if a workout, say like you give somebody 50 workouts to do. And, and a couple of them are bad. You don't really need to adjust them. I know that sounds insane, but you don't really. It's just like, okay, it was a bad workout and we'll move on. But when you're doing a program for a weightlifting meet and you find an issue, you need to fix the issue in some kind of a logical, appropriate way. So there's a couple things I fixed. Real quick, I'll go through them for you.
Please. Mm-hmm.
So what I was doing was I was doing my waiter or suitcase walk after after my warm up, after my complexes, after my snatch, after my clean and jerk. Then I would do my suitcase or waiter walk. Then I'd go for my walk. And it just didn't work. It just was. So now I do my hang, I do my goblet squat sit, and then I do my suitcase or waiter walk then. So it's now a much more dynamic, active warm up. And a lot of you listening and going, well, that's not a big deal. If you're not doing something in a program, or if you have your pirate map and your pirate map says every day I will do this, and you're not doing it, I think you need to address it.
Yes.
Another thing, like for example, when I first started doing this particular program, I was doing 3 sets of 8 in the complex. Well, by the time I got to the lifting, I was dead. And Mike made a good point. He goes, well, you're doing 72 squats in your warm-up. Well, we just shuffled 3 sets of 8 down to 3 sets of 5, and now I'm only doing 45 squats. And I know, and it's like that little change from 3 sets of 8 to 3 sets of 5 in the complex allowed me to snatch and clean and jerk without any issues. Also this week, here's another small change. I realized that I don't need to work on the jerk very much. So this week, I'm just trying a small little experiment of certain days, just doing the squat clean, stand up, maybe doing another front squat, and then getting rid of the load. I think one of the things, folks, if you are on a program and you've got a definite goal, like for example, in body composition, your goal is to look great on the beach, or to look great at the wedding or something like that, or the reunion. I got to tell you, Patrick, those are probably the 3 most common requests I get: reunion, beach, wedding. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Very often pictures are involved. And if you find yourself slipping, it's not working, you might just say, well, I'm going to grind away because, I'm going to lose this fat and I'm going to look better. But in truth, if your program is starting to go in the wrong direction, you might lose maybe some weight on the scale, but you don't look good. So sometimes I think part of the job of a good coach, a good trainer, a good program is to make those small fixes. And it is true. When you're on the beach, and I hate to say this, but when you walk by, no one goes, boy, I bet you he weighs 183 pounds or she weighs 130. No one does that.
Right.
So sometimes you can actually put weight on and look better, especially if you put weight on in your shoulders. There's a few other money areas in the body.
That's right. The beach muscles. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So one of the things that I'm working on this week pretty hard is kind of taking what I just rambled on for about, so it was a song
I know that song.
Okay. I was hoping you'd chime in. And sometimes you have to organize program changes as much as you organize a program.
A lot of really good stuff there, Dan. I want to unpack some of it. First off, to the gentle listeners, Yeti Eddie asked a question, and his question is, can we ask questions? And the answer to that very good question is, of course. Please put your questions below. We will get to Q&A shortly.
Yeti, you can ask one question. Oh, you're done.
You're done. That's it. Expired. So real quick, Dan, general theme, I think this is worth talking about. I'd love to hear you explore the difference between being on a program or training and working out. A lot of people just kind of throw these terms around, ambiguously. Like, for example, I'm really not training for anything right now. Like, I have programs, but I'm more or less working out. And it's to your point, like if I have a bad workout here or there, it doesn't really matter because I don't have some like specific dated performance goal that I'm striving towards right now that like I need a lot of fine tuning, right? Like I will really suffer if I have a specific performance goal, if things aren't very precise, because that's like a significantly missed opportunity. However, if I'm just interested in maintaining general physical preparedness and staying generally strong and lean and getting some good muscle fatigue, I can tolerate the occasional, that was kind of a lame workout, right? Like no big deal. Just no big deal, right? Like I'll just go for a walk. So let's explore that a little bit. What is the difference between a training program and a workout program?
Well, you have that template, and I still, if I get it right, if I get it wrong, help me out. But basically, you said you get stronger 2 days a week. You get sweaty. What is it? Do you remember that little quote you have?
Yeah, a little kind of like I have a little pyramid thing, right? Like strength train. You know what, Dan? I can't remember what I wrote 2 weeks ago. Strength train
It's
some
like,
of the times, get sweaty occasionally, and go for a brisk walk every day. Something like that. Yeah.
go for a brisk walk. And if you did that, okay, so to me, that's what it takes to be a good human animal. A good human animal, probably push, pull, hinge, squat, loaded carry, 2 to 3 times a week. You take 1 day a week to do mobility, flexibility. You have one really long walk, bike ride, saunter, if you will.
Oh.
And then you try to, make walking and movement, the joy of movement, just part of your lifestyle. And to me, that's being a human animal.
Well, yeah,
Okay.
a good human animal. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And those would be to me. So for example, in my world, when we go to bodybuilding programs after an Olympic lifting meet or a long track season, it's fun time, to quote the late Howard Will. Fun time. It's when I go in and I start doing bodybuilding training, high reps, more arm work, I'm working my shoulders, on these particular movements. When I actually use those words, to me, it's just fun. But we probably have people out there who are listeners who are serious bodybuilders and they want to get ready for a contest. So first we have to do is there's going to be a level of basic human movement that we all just need because we're human animals.
Yes.
And I think there's great value in doing something every single day. But like you say, if you got sweaty 2 to 3 times a week and you lifted weights 2 to 3 times a week, and then you had that long session, I have a little example of it my own. You sleep well every night, you eat vegetables at those kinds of things. From there, it gets quickly fuzzy. It gets quickly fuzzy because I don't believe in peaking. And I know that a lot of people disagree with me. The only problem with peaking I have is I've never seen anyone ever do it. It rarely happens that someone actually hits their seasonal or lifetime best at the Olympic trials or the Olympics. Now, they've known for 4 years that on June 26th at 9 a.m., there'd be the trials. Why aren't they ready? Well, because it's really hard to peak.
There's just so many variables.
So many
variables. Uh-huh.
As I was showering this morning, I was going through things like if you compete in Eugene, Oregon, you have to be really smart about your allergy medications because Eugene in the spring and summer can be really potent.
Just humidity conditions, just many things that are
move the nationals down to Atlanta in July. Completely different track meet.
Right.
And then of course, there are times we have to take a bus to the facility because they insist the athletes take the bus. Well, what bus do you take? That can be a big factor for your bowel movement can be as big a factor for your success as any of this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So now let's separate it into looking good and performance. Okay. When you get into a program for looking good, most of us fall into the trap of starvation, rabbit food, vomit, sweat.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm vomiting, it must be good because by vomiting, I'm eating less calories, which means I look leaner on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
By sweating a lot, that must be good because I'll look skinnier on the beach. And the problem, as many people discover sometimes, is that when you do go down that road of I've got to vomit in a workout, otherwise it's no good, is that pretty soon you might you get that it's skinny fat. You look skinny, you look good in maybe clothes, but when you get ready on the beach, everything hags and sags.
Mm-hmm.
In my world of track and field, the beauty of what I do, and I'm not one-upping anybody, but the nice thing about track and field is, did the implement go farther? Did you jump higher? Did you jump farther? Did you run faster? And by having that narrow little measurement, we can make some, if we're not getting you faster, higher, farther, then I can kind of say, we're going in the wrong track here.
Mm-hmm.
That was long.
Yeah, well, that was very good. I like to the kind of general pyramid. I like just kind of giving people ranges for being a good human animal, right? Like, hey, if you strength train, if you resistance train, you do like when I say strength train, I mean both like the low rep and the bodybuilding stuff. I think they're both valuable. 2 to 4 times a week. You get sweaty, like really sweaty, like 1 to 2 times a week. I don't think you need to do it that often. You walk and try and do something for your joints every single day. I think you've got a really good framework there for being a good human adult. And you also have a lot of latitude in the sense that like you can tolerate a bad workout, right? And you can move on, and that's fine. Like you said, you can kind of just like let it go, right? Whereas if you have a very, very specific performance goal, you know you have to show up at this date, and you have to put up this amount of weight, or you have to look this way. You don't really have that latitude. You need more precision and fine tuning. Somebody asked a question the other day of, what's the difference between if you're going for kind of weight loss and being lean, between the novice and the experienced person. I say the biggest difference is you need more patience and more precision. To go from overweight to I guess normal weight. There's a lot more margin of error there. You can get away with a lot more, but to go from lean to very lean,
go to 8% body fat to 6% body fat.
Right. And not only does it take way longer, but you need way more fine tuning, way more precision, and there's way less margin of error. Now, when it comes to that, I really like people to reflect. Like, do you really need to do that? Like, do you really need to go from 8% to 6%? Like, is that really what you need to do? Maybe it is. And if so, okay, reflect upon that. But you're going to have to be more patient, a lot more walking. It's slower. It's more of a grind when you start to push into that kind of specialist territory or even hyper specialist territory. And you have far less room for, I don't even want to call it mistakes, but just general imprecision when it comes to stuff like that.
I've mentioned to you before when I talked to that guy, his name was, I'm almost positive his name is Charles Glass, but that's also the name of the imaginary person on the Brady Bunch. I have to be careful here. But I think his name was Charles Glass, and he was a bodybuilding coach. And I met him at the Oakland Mr. Novice North America or something like that. And I just was talking to him, and he was coaching. He was a bodybuilding coach, which is something I hadn't heard of. And it was just a very basic thing he told me. I think he said it could have been 13, it might have been 14. But it took his bodybuilders, it took them 14 competitions for him to dial in how they need to look best on the platform, on the dais. And the thing is, after I've had a few friends compete, I've had a number of friends try to do bodybuilding contests and quit weeks ahead of time. I guess that's extremely common in bodybuilding contests. It's weird. They'll start putting these pictures up. They look the best of their whole life, and then they just say, "I just fell in love with the pizza last night." But he said it took 14 because you have to dial in when you, Pat Flynn, can take salt for the last time versus Dan John. When I can do my water, my sauna versus my steam room versus my don't need it. 14 times you have to put yourself through 12 to 16 weeks of hell to get it dialed in for you. I mean, very, very few of our listeners are going to be able to do that 14 times.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Very few of our listeners will do it once.
I agree. We've got, it seems to be the international listener episode. We got people from all over here. This is very cool. I wonder if it's just because it's 9 a.m. and
it's time for them. Yeah.
Petri has a question for us, Dan. Can we take a question at this point?
Yeah.
He says, I have a neurological condition called cervical dystonia. Have a great physical therapist and can do swings again now. So his question is this: long term, what are the least neurologically taxing exercises?
What's funny is that I didn't want to talk about that question because it's medical advice. But what's funny is bodybuilding exercises. So there's that great thing. Marty Gallagher uses it. I first saw it from Charlie Francis on the neurological hit. So high-end sprinting and clean and jerks have the highest neurological hit, the barbell clean and jerk. And it's interesting for me to say that because I just told you a few minutes ago, I'm not clean and jerking in training anymore because it's already starting to impact me. I clean and jerk. The only time I clean and jerk heavy is when there's 3 officials, and I know I've got a few weeks after to recover. Weeks. And Charlie Francis had this great chart, and it flowed kind of like this. isolation bodybuilding exercises have the least neurological hit. So if you have a condition, I would put swings closer to high-end sprinting, clean and jerk, deadlift, snatch, heavy squatting. I would put swings closer to that than concentration curls. So I didn't catch the listener's name, but I guess my advice to you would be, you might be able to train like a traditional, that what we call Frankenstein monster training of the bodybuilding world. Tricep extensions, lat pull down. Do you hear the words I'm using? Lat pull down, tricep extension, bicep curl, leg bicep curl, leg extend. When you have an exercise that tells you what muscle it's working, you pretty much know it's a low end taxer on the nervous system. If I was to tell you, okay, I want you to do, first off, we'll start with the Secret Service snatch test, and then we'll do heavy clean and jerks, and then we'll do deadlifts, and then we'll, you could slap me across the face because I don't think that would help you very much. Oh, Petri is from Finland. Swarmy.
Yes, very good. Well, that's very helpful, Dan. And let me just offer the usual disclaimer here. Anything medically related, big asterisk after everything we say. We're assuming that you've talked to your doctor and you're cleared for exercise and all that business. Next one comes from the blog, Dan. I wanted to get this question out there. This comes from Vikas, Vikas. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, so apologies there. And he says, Pat and Dan, hello. Greetings from India. Thanks for all the wonderful material that I gather from listening to your podcast. This is the first time I am writing to you, and it is regarding the way I structure my workout. I am currently going through Jeff Newport's long cycle of death, working on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. However, I do feel there is more gas left in the tank after the workouts on Monday, so I finished the workout with a few rounds of single arm snatches as I'm working on improving my technique, goblet squats, rack marches, etc. I just put together whatever makes sense for that day and state of mind and do a 5x5 sequence. Sometimes I do a Tabata. Typically, I pick 2 movements, so I get 4 sets.
Shit.
I know, right? So sometimes I pick 2 movements, so I get 4 sets of 1 movement in 1 Tabata cycle. On the other days, rather than an active rest, I prefer working out. Typically work with double kettlebells and pick up routines that are available, including from Pat's Racked and Loaded. My question is this: am I hurting the results?
I'm overtrained.
I want to know what you're drinking. Because like whatever that is, I want some of this. His question is, am I hurting the results of the program that I am doing by working out more than what is recommended? And will the workouts on the off days hurt my performance on the program?
Yeah.
That's a lot of stuff.
Oh my God. And here's the thing. Ask Jeff about his programs, not me. I'm getting so frustrated with my podcast, my own little tiny one compared to this one. People keep asking about Simple and Sinister. That's Pavel's program. Why don't you ask him? Email comes back. Well, he doesn't answer questions. Well, then find someone who answers their damn questions. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if Jeff's retired, recently again, but ask Jeff. But I just think anytime you start taking and, I charge people a whole bunch of money. Vikas, I charge people a lot of money, Vikas, to do when they ask me to help them with programming, a lot. And I make the number so high that they don't ask again. It's true. And the reason I don't like helping people do programming is the question you just asked. So I'm doing Dan John's Big 21 program, but 63 Olympic lifts 3 days a week isn't enough for me. So I'm doing Tabata workouts on Tuesday. I'm doing, and what's weird is that my knees hurt. Well, yeah, of course your knees hurt. When we do the Big 21 program, I can barely get my athletes to show up on Thursday. They're just like up,
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. One huge, first of all, I really good stuff there, Dan. Programming how you should work out. Right. It's not that feelings don't matter, but there's just so much sentimentality when it comes to training. Like just do the damn program, whatever it is, before you modify it, whether you feel like you have more gas in the tank or not. I think in order to fairly evaluate a program and to avoid throwing yourself into these very confused states, just do the program as is, trust the process. And then after you've done that, then you can think about And oftentimes when you do that, what people will realize is, oh, well, I did feel like I had more gas in the tank, but as it turns out, I didn't need to burn that gas, right?
Ooh,
It
that's
worked.
amazing.
Yeah, just because you have gas in the tank doesn't mean you have to burn it, right?
Yeah, there's no law that says you have to. Yeah.
And I would prefer that very much more often than not, you do finish your routines feeling like you have gas in your tank. Because I don't know about you, Dan, but like whatever gas I have in my tank, I cannot afford to burn all of that in the gym. I've got other things I need to do throughout the day. I need gas in the tank.
Well, I mean, I've had people tell me about, I did your program, and then you find out that they, like the one guy who talked about doing Mass Made Simple, but he didn't get anything out of it. I find out later on, he did leg presses instead of back squats. Well, leg pressing your body weight, I can't even, my level of stomach distress saying this sentence just breaks my heart. Leg pressing your body weight is something that my grandson would do without any impact.
Mm-hmm.
He's not Leo, the newborn, but Danny, the 7-year-old. What a joke. He adapted my program. And this is what I find, Vikas, this is the thing I find. What happens is when I hear people adding stuff to programs, very often they're not actually doing the program. You know, they're doing, oh yeah, I'm going to do that Olympic lifting program, but I don't know how to snatch and clean and jerk, so I'm going to do lat pull downs and leg curls.
Or they're not taking the variables and the intensity prescription seriously.
Yeah,
that's another thing. Mm-hmm. Also, I'm very surprised that any program that answers to the description of death in its name, you would even want to add anything to that. But next question comes from Ignacio. From Spain. We're going to hit every country by the end of this episode, which is fantastic. I love that we have so many international listeners. Cheers, guys. In fact, I would love to hear more. If you're tuning in, drop a comment and let us know where you're tuning in from. This is a lot of fun. Spain, Finland, India,
we got some
Norway. You got California in there. Yeah.
If you're from the States, though, you got to also include what town you're from so that I can make fun of you. Okay.
Of course. Yeah. And if you're in Wisconsin, double cheers to my fellow Wisconsinites. Ignacio says, hello, hi. I would like to thank you for your awesome content. Appreciate that. Greetings from Spain. I would like to ask a question. What type of exercises would you do with mild golfer elbow tendonitis with kettlebells? Thank you. So golfer elbow is indeed what I had for some time. And it is, and we talked about this, I think it was last week, Dan.
For pull-ups.
From one arm chin-ups gave me incredible pain. And it's one
that exercise. Yeah.
And we were talking about how it's funny. Like in the abstract, you would think like, oh, an elbow injury. It's like a toe injury. Like that's nothing. Right. Mm-hmm. Until you actually have one, you realize how debilitating it is. Like how many things hurt. Like just opening the refrigerator was immensely painful, and the door, and so pretty much any gripping for me. Opening a jar was just, it was really a very tedious process for me. And the best advice I can give is like, you can't piss it off. You have to avoid anything that pisses it off. If you keep pissing it off, it's just going to stay hot. And so I had to, and it's a tedious recovery process. So I had to avoid, what I could do was I could play around with different grips. So pretty much a lot of the single hand kettlebell stuff was just out for a while. It was too hot. But various, grips with two hand stuff was okay for me. Aside from the two other things, which was, giving some love to it. I had some physical therapists and all that. The diet was surprising too. Whenever I would have, let's say whenever I was a naughty boy with my diet, Dan, whenever I was a little naughty, boy, did the inflammation just scream in the elbow. So just keeping the diet, clean. And I suspect that we're all adult enough to know what I mean by clean eating. I shouldn't have to define it too much. Really helped finally speed the recovery process along. Getting some love from a physical therapist, not making it mad, and then being willing. And then for me, it was a matter of experimentation because I knew other people with other elbow issues that they could do things that I couldn't. So it was kind of very specific to me. And as long as it didn't hurt at all, not even like mildly discomfortable, if that's a word, didn't hurt at all. So there were some pulling variations I could do at specific angles. Having rings were helpful. 2-hand swings were actually fine. 1-arm swings were out for a while. Goblet squats were fine. Interestingly enough, kettlebell pressing was out for a while because just the weight on the hand shot down to the elbow. And was so on one side kettlebell pressing was out. So that's just some advice from my experience having dealt with that very annoying issue. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, Dan. Mm-hmm.
Well, I have to agree with you. Boy, the hardest thing about once you injure a joint, and it's got a name. If a joint has if an injury has a name, jumper's knee, patella tendonitis, elbow, golfer's elbow, if it has a name, then I think very often it's actually, I mean, this is going to sound very strange, but if it has a name, it means that we're not alone in weightlifting for this. And, when we talk about the elbow specifically and exercises, you're right, man. It is what every single person I've known who's ever gotten that pull-up injury from the elbow, what we call MAPS, middle-age pull-up syndrome. The only thing you can do is not pull up for 2, 3, 4 months. It takes that long for it to come around. I will say that there is an exercise once you're not in pain that seems to help, and it's the kettlebell clean. The bicep has 3 functions, at least 3 functions. So the most common function is the one that, you're gonna miss my gun. You gotta
let's get it in there, Dan. Ooh.
Okay, function number 1 is what Danny knows. Function number 2 is to do this. There it is. To do this with the hand. Function 3 is to hold the fist on the body. And really, if there is a 4th function, is to brachiate. So one of the things I discovered doing kettlebell cleans now, once you're injured, you might be screwed. I don't know. But the nice thing about the kettlebell clean is that it works all 3 of the major functions, plus even a hint to the 4th one of the bicep. So you're getting all 3. So you're getting all 3 parts of the function of the bicep in one exercise, plus it hints towards brachiation. That exercise seems to help long-term with some people's middle-age pull-up syndrome.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say is try to understand what led to that issue in the first place. For me, that it was the 1-arm chin-up stuff. And that's why somebody asked me again recently, this is actually a question I get fairly often, is what would I change about the Paleo Workouts book, aside, of course, from the title? And it's some of the exercise selection. That was one exercise that had a big cost attached to it and virtually 0 benefits aside from being a party trick. So it's gone. It's just not something that's that Pat Flynn does anymore. Mm-hmm. Yeti Eddie says, I just recently started judo 5 to 6 times a week. How many times a week should I train with kettlebells and isometrics, specifically the ISO chain? Have you played around with this ISO chain thing, Dan?
I got one in my gym. Yeah. I was one of the early adopters. I was a beta tester. Yeti asked that question, right? Yeti?
Yeti Eddie.
And Yeti, you should probably have Coach Wade's books. And there's the program that I did was called Prometheus. That is the 3 movements, the 3 strength movements. It was, for me, it was the press about here. It was the heavy curl, and it was that kind of modified deadlifty Zercher thing. It's in the manual. And then I just did kettlebells normally. But I don't, if you're doing judo 5 to 6 days a week, I mean, that's a lot of volume for that. I would say 2 or 3 times a week in strength training, Patrick, that would probably be about the limit.
I think that's right. And then you're going to be getting, your specific conditioning from the sport itself, especially if you're doing it that frequently. Mm-hmm.
That's a lot. So yeah, probably at most 3 days a week. Just find yourself a very basic, simple program. Don't go crazy. Goblet squat, press, maybe some swings, goblet squat, maybe push up. I mean, I've got the workouts, the humane burpee, armor building, and then the iso chain. Do something as simple as the Prometheus workout, and get in, get out, and focus on
and get on your way. Get in, get out, get on with your day. Johannes says hello from Germany. Well,
hello.
Well, cheers
Good
to you. Yes, I know. Yes, I know a few German words.
Yes. Discus Werf. Hammerwerf. Spear tossen.
You know more than me, so I'm not going to try and compete with that.
Well, that's all just throwing terms. That's it.
Username Project Rights says, this is not a question. Just wanted to let everyone know that I love the Only Lifts for Fat Loss program.
And I've been, it's not project. I'm beginning to understand now how, when I was in junior college, that I had such a struggle getting weight on when I was Olympic lifting 3 hours a day after throwing the discus 200 times. It's starting to become more and more apparent to me that Olympic lifting might be the biggest caloric burn I've ever done in my career. So
yeah, well, let me the program he's talking about, for gentle listeners who might be unaware, is I love the title of it. It's Easy Strength for Fat Loss with Olympic Lifting. And I just love titles that just are like direct and to the point. Like, this is just what it is. And we did a full episode on that a couple of weeks ago. So if people want, and over at chroniclesofstrength.com, if you just search for Easy Strength for Fat Loss with Olympic Lifting, you'll see Dan was kind enough to share the entire protocol. It's all written up under the episode right over there. So,
and you know what? I will send you an updated version of it too. I weighed in again today, another pound down. So, obviously, if you think weight loss is an important thing for a 63-year-old, 64-year-old, then this is a good thing.
Yeah, love it. Well, thank you for that, Dan. Cheers. Dennis says, how much am I nerfing myself by weight practicing in the morning and skipping breakfast?
Well, Dennis, that's exactly how I train. That is, I fast and then I do. So I fast, talk to Patrick. I fast, I talk to Patrick. I do my mobility. I do my loaded carry. I do my Olympic lifts, and I do my walk. And then I shovel down. Yesterday's breakfast, by the way, was a gut biome. Dennis,
the gut biome bomb.
You just have to listen to this one, okay? So what I do, Patrick, is I take oats in the rawest form I can find oats, and then I take chia seeds and sunflower seeds at the base, and then I pour in protein drink on top of it, stir around really good, and then let it sit in the fridge overnight. And so for breakfast yesterday, I had oatmeal, chia seeds, sunflower seeds, protein drink with a massive amount of kimchi. So I had kimchi and oats for breakfast. Now, I don't care who you are. If that doesn't frighten your gut biome, your gut bacteria, I don't know it will. And then I washed it down with a tangerine. So inside my belly yesterday was a symphony of bacteria trying to figure out what the hell I said.
I love that. Yeah, no, I'm the same way. So after this, Dan, I'll head to the gym. What I've noticed with fasting is that I don't feel nerfed unless I train in the afternoon with fasting, right? So I realize I have this sort of
there's a load limit. Yeah.
There is a load limit for me. Like, as long as I train before noon fasting, I don't feel nerfed. And nerfed is, I guess, I don't know where that term comes from, but it means weakened, right?
I've heard from people. Now, I've not done this, Patrick, but I've heard that, like, for me, I'm basically about I'm 16 to 18 hour faster. Is that, I think? Okay,
I think, yeah.
I can't do the math. I've heard 16 to 18 hour fasting, and then you train. There's no notice at all. I've heard that if you go an entire loop, so let's see, it wouldn't be 24 hours because that would be dinner, but like 36. So if you ate dinner and then you fasted overnight through the day, skip. Okay, so you have, okay, I'm doing a terrible job this morning. Okay, so I eat dinner Monday night. I fast the entire day on Tuesday, and then I train in the morning Wednesday. That's not bad.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is interesting, folks. If you go about 22 hours, then it seems to have an impact. So fasting, like so many things in the human body, there is a bit of rhythm to it. There's
I agree.
A weird rhythm. Is that staccato? Is that staccato in music?
Not necessarily.
Is there a word?
Staccato and legato, or the sort of the whether legato is when you have a very smooth passage. Staccato is when you have very punctuated.
So there is kind of a weird rhythm about how fasting impacts you. Mm-hmm. I'll say this positive, Dennis. Here's the interesting thing. Of all the things I've ever done in my career, adapting to your body adapts to fasting quickly. So even if you have the first day you fast and then work out, you might have but within a couple days, it's completely unnoticeable. Your body seems to really adapt to fasting far faster than you think it will.
And I'm not entirely sure that fasting is actually the culprit. Right? My general rhythm is just afternoons are just down for me, anyways. Right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've noticed lately I have been nappy in the afternoons lately out of nowhere. But I also have a grandson who's a newborn, and if you're sitting around watching a newborn in the afternoon, you feel like taking a nap because they start to do that little thing with their eyes,
Johanna says, Pat, can I do cleans with a kettlebell in your minimalist program with the ab wheel, rings, and kettlebell? Thanks for the work you were both doing. Sorry for my English. Well, it's pretty good. So, Dan, yesterday I just took a question where somebody asked what to do if they just have a kettlebell, set of rings, and an ab wheel. I'm like, that's a pretty sweet setup. And what did I say for that with the swings? I want to say, you're asking me to remember what I said yesterday. This is asking a lot with somebody with 4 children who don't always sleep incredibly well. Yeah, I think you could. I think at least on one of the days, because Dan, I used a variation of your humane burpee in there. I think that would be fine. I don't know. Dan, what would you do with those 3 pieces of equipment? Why don't you get in here?
Everything.
Everything.
I don't know of a better setup. Mm-hmm. I probably would maybe. I would probably say, okay, there's going to be a ring. There's going to be 2 ring heavy days. Those would be the days that I would do more of the, the T's, the Y's, the I's, the rows, all the little magical ring exercises.
The killer app stuff with the rings. Yeah, we talked about your killer app theory in that episode.
Yeah, and then 2 days a week, I'd be a little bit more kettlebelly. That'd be the day, humane burpee, the swing day. That would be the day we get the 250, 300 swings in, and then use the other stuff as, there you go. That's a good program right there. That's 4 days a week. And then use every piece of equipment every day, but focus on the TRX 2 days a week and focus on the kettlebell 2 days a week.
Pretty, not too dissimilar, Dan, than what I wrote up. So I just linked that protocol in the comments if anyone wants to take a quicker peek at that.
Okay. Thank you for doing it.
Yeah, well, we do what we can around here. Okay, now I have to scroll back to where we were with the Q&A. Really good questions, everybody.
And then Positive Dennis is close to Palm Springs. One of my favorite workshops of all time was down there. Yeah.
Brandon says, I've heard that kettlebells can develop power because of their ballistics. However, I'm curious regarding strength gains. How does strength gains and power gains differ in kettlebell training?
Well, it's not accurate, but there's this nice little line people sometimes use where they have strength on the far end and endurance on the other. Absolute strength on the far end and weird endurance on the far end. And then power, of course, is somewhere in between there. The biggest problem I think you're facing, and was it Brandon?
That was Brandon.
Yeah, is that, if you're going to say absolute strength and you're going to go in and deadlift your 24 kilo deadlift and then, throw chalk in the air before and scream at the camera after, no, we're all just going to think you're a lunatic. Can ballistic work like kettlebell swings improve the deadlift? Yeah, weirdly it can. Can having an 800 kilo deadlift make you swing the kettlebell 500 times? It gets a little vague. So what I guess the question I would have for you, and I hate to do this, but what do you mean by power development, and what do you mean by strength? Because for the bulk of our listeners, the answer would be absolutely yes. Strength and power and endurance, they dance together. It's a nice little dance. If you're an elite power lifter, if you're elite ultra marathoner, we have to have a different discussion. But for most of us, the answer is just a flat, yeah, absolutely, you're fine.
Right. Yeah. The kettlebell is nice because it if you're kind of like considering the force velocity curve, you can kind of work it all over. You're going to get the slower, grindier stuff like the front squats and the military presses, but then you can get the more explosive power-based movements. Of course, the swing is the quintessential example there, but push presses. There are still some gaps, right? So deadlifting, it is hard to the heavier, really grindy stuff. Even two of the heaviest kettlebells, if people are serious about deadlifting, you'll probably outgrow that swiftly.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how you'd set your gym up for having enough kettlebell. If you had even 248s, I mean, when we used to do the certs, and we used to have to bring in those 13 beasts, and they're just in the way. They're just literally in the way for the entire 3 days.
Yeah, I agree.
One time, and they're in the way. Yeah.
Yep. Kirill, if I'm pronouncing that right, says, Dan, your mobility videos help me feel good in years. Thank you.
Okay.
Pat, this podcast is great. I think your philosophy background helps everything in the fitness space. Well, thank you. Really appreciate that. And his question is for Dan. I'm doing your mobility stuff 2 times a week, but should I progress at some point? Do more than twice a week? I do get tired on anything more, though, he says.
Yeah, I want to make sure we understand what you mean by mobility. Are you talking about my 30 for 30 for 30 for 30 workout on YouTube? Because that is it. We don't do anything else. It's just, or are we talking about that fall long? Basically, there is no progression on mobility or flexibility work, I think. I think it's the doing that the value is. So for me, just doing this with my thumbs right now, the progression is me doing this 10 years from now. The progression is, me when I Olympic lift, it's still there, So I'm not a big believer in progression on flexibility. I mean, obviously, if you go to a hot yoga class and there's some psychopath there, and yesterday I was watching a video of a friend of mine doing some stretching, and he, he's being touted as the most, absolutely perfect flexibility, and it's like, absolutely perfect flexibility what does that mean?
And there's a difference, right? So mobility is just sort of access and control through normal, healthy range of motion. So there it's like, progress is just maintenance through your life. Flexibility is access to, but not necessarily control through, often extended ranges of motion, right? The splits would be a good example of that. And
every surgeon will tell you that every single patient they have has perfect flexibility. When you get a total shoulder, they will take your shoulder and they will put it through the farthest range of motion your shoulders will ever do. And of course, the moment you come to, your nervous system protects it. So I can do the splits after a total hip replacement until I wake up.
Yeah. And people can have extreme flexibility in certain areas and very poor mobility in other areas as well. It often becomes a very specific piecemeal thing.
Right. In fact, I'm glad you said that, because for me, I notice a lot of people might have extremely flexible hamstrings, and lower, actually it's lower back. It's not actually their hamstrings, and their toes are just it looks like someone took an axe to them and just beat them to death. Well, the lack of big toe flexibility, the lack of ability to reach out with your toes, to stretch your toes out. You're supposed to have 3 arches in your foot, not, so if you don't have toe flexibility, you don't have arches in your feet, all the hamstring and lower back flexibility in the world isn't going to help you avoid. Well, actually, you might actually have more back issues with bad feet, even though you can touch your toes and do all these little nice circus tricks,
right?
Because you are a system. Basically your feet are trampolines or mini tramps.
Good point.
Enough, yeah.
Michael says he bought the ISO chain and now wants to know how to combine it with kettlebells and traditional weightlifting. So I've never touched this thing. I have no idea what it is. I don't even know if it's worth it. Dan, you were a beta tester. So
yeah, again, I thought it was in the book that came with the thing. All I can say was my conversations with Dick Smith, the great trainer from York Barbell Club, who was there, and he drove Bill March back and forth to Dr. Ziegler's place. And Dick told me, if you're an Olympic lifter, 2 days a week of serious isometrics and 2 days a week of Olympic lifting. And he still felt, and this would have been as late as 15 years ago, that was the correct balance. Obviously, with an ISO chain or something like that, that's easier to work with. You might be able to slide that up to 3 or 5 days a week, because you can do it right here in your bedroom, your office. But what's going to happen is you're gonna do it 20 times a week and 300 weightlifting sessions, and then do Tabatas, and then do the armor building program, and then run a marathon, and then say you got hurt, don't taking my advice. So 2 + 2.
Jason says, hey guys, great content. Should I focus on fat loss first to make relative strength easier to achieve? I'm 6'2", 240 pounds, and train 3 days a week and walk everywhere.
Oh, everywhere. Okay.
I'm filling in some of the what I assume is meant in some of these questions when there's typos. Mm-hmm.
Even with mass building programs, I like people to do fat loss first.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I just think that now, having said that, and I missed the person's name. Was it Michael?
It was Jason.
Oh, Jason. I'm sorry. Jason. Oh, okay. Even though it's interesting, it is strange, Jason, is that sometimes if you do put yourself on a strength phase, that body fat does come off. Basically, it all, fat loss happens in the kitchen. Fat loss happens in the kitchen. Fat loss happens in the kitchen. I also would say fat loss happens at not going to the bar, the pub. But if you're doing the stuff like getting the sleep in, drinking the water, eating the vegetables, I would still focus on fat loss first if you can, because it does the neurological adaptations, I think, are slower than the early weight loss.
Yeah, I like getting lean and healthy first before really prioritizing the muscle side. I think that's just a smart move. People have theories about a potentiating effect there. I'm not sure how well borne out those are, but I find that it is useful. And I think, and it's very important, right? Don't try and he seems to have the right mentality. Don't try and do it all at once, right? Like focus. I'm going to lean out and I'm going to use strength training, but I'm not going to, as Dan John would say, win the triathlon and the powerlifting meet and the body building competition all at the same time. In terms of relative strength, I mean, look, one of the easier ways to get better at pull-ups is to just lose 10 pounds. That's definitely true. So I think you're on the right track there. That's what I like to do. If people have both strength and body composition goals with clients, all considerations equal, let's focus on the leanness first. That will always include strength training, of course, because it helps with that. Once we're happy there, that we focus on just maintaining that and then putting on more strength and muscle as is desired. Mm-hmm.
And just to help, just to follow up just a little bit with Jason, right now, Jason, I'm doing that. I'm trying to chase several rabbits at once. I am trying to lose body weight for this weightlifting meet, and I'm also snatching and clean and jerk for this weightlifting meet. But you'll notice that there was a phrase I used in both examples, the weightlifting meet. And so even though it might sound like I'm chasing multiple rabbits, I'm really not, because it is on May 15th. I will weigh in. I will, step on a scale in front of people, and they'll say, they'll announce a number, and then I'll give them the numbers I'm going to lift on the platform, and then I'll stand up in front of these judges and lift these weights. But it's the pressure of having bought the membership, got on the platform. It's all that stuff that makes me compete. But makes this work.
And certainly there are rabbits that can be chased simultaneously. Like I think pull-ups and weight loss are a good combination.
Oh,
like that's a goal where you could reasonably expect them to be sort of mutually compatible rather than intention or exclusive. Right.
very, very much so. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, boy, these hours fly by, but let's see if we can squeeze one or two more in here. Drifter wants to know, what do you think are the beach muscles, Dan?
Oh, I almost universally, male, female, almost everybody. It would be the glutes. It'd be the shoulders. Might be the triceps. It's really what Yonda taught us. If your shoulders and triceps are in a good place and your glutes are rocking, everything else seems to come along with it. I would probably have to turn you over to the worker Greg O'Gallagher or Rusty Moore for more insights on this. You know, O'Gallagher is real big about the incline bench press for those muscles, the weighted pull up. I think the dip is the other one.
Yeah.
And this, yeah.
I think that's a good selection. I think the incline dumbbell bench press, if you really want the beach muscle focus, makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm gonna have to start working on it. I'm starting to get the gentlemanly saggy boob syndrome, and but snatch and clean and jerk isn't exactly the most.
Well, you know what? Maybe next week we could start to sketch out the Beachbody kettlebell program. Who knows?
I love it. Right?
That could be a cool theme. I will write it down. All right, so stay tuned, gentle listeners, and hit that subscribe button, because next week we're going to talk about beach muscles with kettlebells and how to get them. But for now, Dan, as we close out here, give us the updates again of what's coming down the pipeline at Dan John University and where all the people should go to check that out.
Sure. The goal setting course is done. It's 12 parts, 10 lessons, well over an hour of brand new videos, a whole bunch of new writings, I should say, sorry. There's reading comprehension questions. There's little prompts for you to write. There's a forum dedicated to some of the prompts. And and as many people know, I'm a big believer in setting and achieving goals, but I spend a lot of time. I basically talk most people out of their goals because they're just saying a sentence, and that comes out in here. So danjohnuniversity.com, it's blowing up. If you join, I think it's $30 for members and it's $60 for non-members, but a membership is $30. So join and take the course.
Of course. Dan John, always an absolute pleasure to be here with you. And we will be back, gentle listeners, same time next week. So like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Dan John, thank you as
Pat,
always.
Always appreciate it. Thank you, my friend.
Yep. We will see you then.
Look forward to it. Bye-bye.